Okay. Let's see here. This is yesterday's. This is the suggested budget, correct?
Yep.
Thank you. Oh, Michael Stoll, Steve Lado, Tracy Lloyd. Well, there's a lot. We got a lot of company today. Okay. Let's see. I have Michael Stoll, Steve Blados, and Tracy Lloyd. Is that the same as you?
Yep.
Okay.
Jeff Reach looks like he's getting on too.
Oh, Jeff Reach? Oh, yep, there we go. Good afternoon. It is Monday, July 27th. Commissioner Van Beek, Commissioner White. We are here in the Commissioner's meeting room. Monica Reeves is with us doing our deputy clerk duties. We are having a meeting to receive the clerk's suggested budget for fiscal year 2021. And just to recognize, there are some that have joined us on WebEx. Michael Stoll, Steve Blados, they're from our Canyon County Ambulance District. Tracy Lloyd, the Canyon County Treasurer. Jeff Reach, who is the head of misdemeanor probation. I don't want to miss anybody. And why can I not see their faces? I guess, do you have to press on them? No? No? Oh, well. Make yourself seen, okay? Okay. So, who's going to take the lead on this? Clerk Yamamoto, and with him is the controller, Zach Wagner, as well. Let me see, look around the room. We do have, it's mostly, there is Canyon County employees, elected officials, members of the prosecuting attorney's office, the court, and I believe the press is here. Look at there. Okay, and Joe is there, public information. So, Clerk Yamamoto, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioner Van Beek. Before we get started, I would like, and this is the Canyon County Clerk's suggested budget for fiscal year 2021. Before we get started, I would like to thank all of the offices and departments and individuals within everybody. I'm very happy to say everybody was really good to work with, so we're quite pleased about that. That's the time you think you've seen it all. And some of the things within budget is getting old hat. Something comes along called COVID-19 and kind of turned things upside down. So we have a lot of questions as to how everything is going to work out mechanically. I'm going to turn this over to Zach here pretty soon, and we'll go through some of that stuff. But this has been a very different and very odd budget year, and it's mostly due to COVID-19 and the resulting CARES Act. So I think what we have is we put together what I consider to be a very good budget under the circumstances. I want to thank Zach as well, who has put in a tremendous amount of time. He put in a full afternoon yesterday. I came in about 3 o'clock. We went over things for about an hour. He put the final touches on this morning. Zach, thank you. I think you've done a terrific job. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the controller, and then I, of course, will be here to fill in any gaps.
Thank you, Clerk Yamamoto, and thank you, Commissioners. Appreciate all the time and investment that you put forth in meeting with offices and departments and helping this budget come together. There's a tremendous amount of numbers in a budget, but ultimately I believe a budget is about people. It's about our taxpayers, it's about looking out for their best interests, and it's about our employees who continue to provide first-class service in difficult, challenging circumstances. Really, truly, this budget is about people and the people's business. So we have a handout for you today that we'd like to go through. The first page identifies some top priorities in the fiscal year 2021 budget, beginning with property tax relief. The clerk's suggested budget includes a property tax freeze. No increase in property tax. That would include not taking $1.6 million that's allowable for the 3% increase, and not taking $2.1 million that's available through the new construction process. Also included in property tax relief is utilizing $9.8 million in CARES Act public safety funding. On the expenditure budget is a decrease of $1.95 million from fiscal year 2020. Included in that decrease are 12 full-time positions that are unfunded in the fiscal year 2021 budget. Those positions are in indigent medical function, and also in our juvenile detention center, and as well our security departments. So overall, there's a decrease in the personnel budget from 2020 to 2021. Also included in the budget are investments, capital investments, $9.2 million for investments in vehicles, machinery, and equipment, $1.2 million for continued investment in our employees, in our human capital, continuation of the compensation plan to the tune of $1.2 million. Also $575,000 for new and reclassified positions. Those are a few of the key highlights of the fiscal year 2021 clerk suggested budget.
Zach, before you leave that page, I would like to make it clear on the property tax freeze, that's the county only. That does not include, of course, cities, schools, and other taxing entities. So when it says property tax freeze, it's for Canyon County property tax directly to the county, and the freeze is basically the same amount as 2020.
Thank you, Clerk. That leads us directly to page number 2, which provides some more information about property tax proposal. In fiscal year 2020, the county levied a little over $54 million in property tax. There are some potential available increases to that available in fiscal year 2021. Those will include the 3% increase, $1.6 million. The new construction increase is $2.1 million, and the county has foregone balance available of just under $6 million. So the total available increases to our property tax budget are just a little over $9.7 million. The clerk's suggested budget includes, again, 3% increase, 0 new construction increase, 0 utilization of foregone, or no property tax increase. Also included is $9.8 million in CARES Act public safety funding that will be a direct decrease to the amount of property tax levied. So if we take the $54 million that was levied in 2020, less the $9.8 million, we have a net 2021 property tax levy of just over $44 million. This will result in a substantial decrease in our property tax levy rate. Property tax levy rate is estimated to decrease 26.6% from last year. That's a combination of holding the line, holding steady, freezing property taxes, and also the application of the CARES Act Public Safety Fund. And as the clerk pointed out, these amounts are specific only to the county's property tax levy. A tax bill consists of multiple taxing districts, a school district, a highway district, cemetery district. A county is just one piece, one portion of someone's property tax bill. And the county, on average, is around 30% of a property tax bill. So this is only specific to Canyon County.
So, this then is going on the assumption that we're going to accept the gift?
Yes. I think one of the most important numbers in the budget is the property tax. A budget can be adjusted during the middle of a fiscal year, with the exception of property tax. Once you establish an amount specific to property tax, that amount is set in stone. That amount is fixed. That amount cannot change. I think one of the most important numbers in a budget is the property tax dollars requested. And we spend a great amount of time in analyzing and trying to establish what is the proper amount to levy for property tax. Because once that number is fixed, once it's set, that's it. Cannot change that number. Any other questions on page 2?
Zach, I just have a question related to next year's budget. So that's I understand it correctly, a one-year effort by Governor Little to provide relief, and so this is going to lower the levy rate. So next year, we go back to the property tax dollars levy. We start there at 54,119.56 or maybe 21. What that looks like.
Yes, that is where we would start. When you're projecting future year increases, there's a 3-year look back. You look back over 3 years, you start with the highest of the last 3 years.
Okay, thank you.
So page number 3 shows the $44 million in property tax, how that levy breaks out by fund. Property taxes are fund specific. The most significant change is in the Justice Fund levy. Justice Fund property tax has been decreased to $8.9 million. That amount would then be supplemented by the CARES Act funding. So the CARES Act funding would be deposited into the Justice Fund to offset the decrease in property tax levy in the Justice Fund.
And is that dollar for dollar then?
That is dollar for dollar, yes. There's no financial gain, financial windfall to the county related to the CARES Act. The benefit is really to the property taxpayers. The money will be deposited into the Justice Fund because that's where the expenditures will have occurred. Page number 4 goes into some more detail on the specifics of the 2021 suggested budget. The clerk's suggested expenditure budget for fiscal year 2021 is $102,798,286. Of that amount, a little over $68 million is budgeted for salaries and benefits, and $34.5 million is budgeted for other operating expenditures. Both salaries and benefits and other operating expenditures are both decreased from fiscal year 2020 to fiscal year 2021. A few highlights in that $102 million number. $1.2 million for approved step advancements in the compensation plan with no cost of living adjustment. $575,000 budgeted for new and reclassified positions. Those positions include 2 driver's license customer service positions, 6 deputy sheriff positions, and 1 landfill fee collector position. Also included is carryover from fiscal year 2020, $500,000 in the capital investment funding, and an additional $500,000 added in fiscal year 2021. Bring that total available amount to $1 million.
And Zach, can I ask a question, I'm sure? Is that property tax and sales tax funded, or is that out of the fund balance for the additional $500,000?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Van Beek, the $500,000 additional would be property tax and sales tax funded.
Okay, thank you.
So for capital investments, vehicles, equipment, machinery, and improvements, total $9.2 million budgeted. We also have included in the suggested budget suspension of property tax funding for the following functions: Historical Society levy, Boise Valley Economic Partnership, 4-H program coordinator, and the security department.
Madam Chair. Zach, I have a question on the security department funding where there was a $0 exchange on the A budget for that. Can you talk more in detail about that, where the big budget was expended last year?
I guess, Madam Chair, I'm not quite sure I'm following the question.
Okay, it was my understanding in the presentation of that information that, well, and it wouldn't be a department, it wouldn't be a stand-up department, but maybe I'll rephrase that question. The county set up a security department last year, which didn't have continuity or longevity to it. So in that, the funding for that, where did the reallocation for that money on that position get allocated?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Van Beek, in fiscal year 2020, county established a security department.
Yes.
And allocated a budget of roughly $200,000 in fiscal year 2020 specific to that department. Some of those funds were spent, some were spent on personnel, some were spent on computers and other operating expenditures. But we're proposing not including any funding specific to the security department in fiscal year 2021.
Okay, thank you. And Madam Chair, Zach, one more thing then on the Historical Society levy. You had a presentation, and in that presentation, Zach, you're proposing not to fund any of those projects. You're indicating that?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
We're also suggesting removing the reserve line items in the justice and tort funds, total of $300,000.
But can I ask do we regularly use that? It seems like those things are coming past this desk kind of frequently.
Madam Chair, the use is, I would say, rather infrequent.
Oh, okay.
And if we did have an emergent, unexpected situation, there are tools available to open the budget and adjust for that.
Okay.
In the past, those amounts have not been funded with current revenue. They were more a placeholder for a reserve or an unexpected or an emergent type event. So if that were to happen, still have tools to address those needs.
And so
thank you, Zach.
on the contingency fund, does that put us at $150,000 then?
So we would still include a contingency fund in the current expense fund
Correct.
of $150,000.
Okay, thank you.
And the current expense fund, to me, has a great deal of value to the county because we have a wide array of uses. You can use current expense or general fund money, that's called general fund.
And one more question, Madam Chair, for Zach. There was not, or maybe I looked at a capital investment fund line in the current expense fund. It was an effort account. Have you added that, or can you add that to the current expense fund?
Madam Chair, that amount is included in the current expense fund.
Okay, so
It is a separate accounting department, and that would be where the $500,000 from 2020 would carry over to 2021, and then $500,000 would be added in 2021 for a total of $1 million available on that line.
and I do understand what you're saying, and I'm looking, if I look at the budget, if I look at the current expense fund, would I find a line item for this capital investment included in the current expense fund?
Correct, yes, you would.
Okay, thank you.
The suggested budget also includes foregoing the information technology project, disaster recovery project. That was requested an amount of $100,000 for that budget line. Suggestion also includes foregoing the Crossroads Museum mezzanine project and reducing the gun range project budget amount from $46,200 to $20,000. Total reduction there, $71,200. Also, we're suggesting that foregoing $50,000 requested for an overtime allocation in juvenile probation.
And Chair, Jack, on the gun range project then, that would stall the additional work being done out there for events and security. Tell me what is that what that would be?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Van Beek, in 2020, there was $20,000 approved for the gun range project. We're suggesting, once again, $20,000 in fiscal year 2021 for the gun range. And I do believe one of the requested uses of that was for fencing and other security measures.
Okay.
Any other questions on page 4?
I have a question on the funding. I'm looking for the line item. Okay. When it's the suspension of the 4-H program coordinator, it's not a suspension of the requested increase, it's a suspension of the position.
The position, the county's full contribution.
Okay, thank you.
Page number 5.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, Zach, I have one more question. On where is your breakdown on the $1.2 million for staff advancement? I understand that's not an across-the-board cost of living increase, but did you cap any or talk about, were there caps placed on the increases that were in the budget in this compensation plan? Was it equally divided between department heads and a little bit on the salary increases that are others within that $1.2 million?
Certainly. The county has a compensation program, a compensation plan, and there are positions and there are pay ranges unique to each position. And within that pay range, there are steps associated with years of experience. So as employees maintain employment with the county, as they improve their skills, as they learn more things, they are entitled to hopefully advance a step forward on the pay scale. And that's done in conjunction with the start of a fiscal year. So for employees who qualify for that next step on the pay cycle, we've included that next step pay cycle for employees who are eligible for that next step because of an additional year in position, an additional year of experience.
And I appreciate that explanation of how that plan works. So where is the breakdown by department or elected official, for people to look at? And then if you could talk a little bit about your position on that inclusion, given that a lot of people, taxpayers, have not worked during this year or have experienced financial hardship. Can you address that?
Well, the breakdown by elected official, the breakdown by department is now included in our plan in the suggested budget phase. So we've taken that amount, separated it by elected official, by department.
And you don't have any breakdowns today for did you cap any of those?
I did not cap any of those. No, they were strictly tied to the current existing compensation plan and then those individuals that are eligible for the next step forward.
Okay, and on the range, what was the highest increase? Percentage increase?
I don't have that information available right now in front of me.
I think that, I'll just tell you what I think, and you give me this, but this keeps our comp plan whole. In other words, what we've invested, we are being stewards of what we have invested in the last, this will be the third year we're going into, or in our third year. So we have to be stewards with the investment we have made, and that was before either one of us were here. And in my opinion, that's one of the greatest things that previous commissioners did, is that they took a look at the pay and the lack of parity with other jobs similar around this valley. And it's made Canyon County somewhat an employer of choice now. People come here and want to work here and everything else. So I think what you're saying, this is we treat our employees right. They are our most important asset. And we allowed them, when they had to shelter at home, they remained financially in a good position. Christmas vacation, they got they enjoyed that. And they were so grateful, and nobody takes anything for granted. I want that to be very clear. They were very, very grateful. Thanksgiving, they get that, okay. I recognize that the sheriff's department doesn't get to enjoy some of those things. The courts, I recognize the courts and in the clerk's positions and stuff like that, that part of it. And this helps us keep the compensation plan whole. Is that a good way to say that? Clerk Yamamoto.
Madam Chair, so what happened is we fell way behind on the pay scale. And there was several years that went by with no increases of any kind. What the result of that was, where we became the training ground for other places, particularly the sheriff's office. I won't speak for other people, but the clerk's office, we were losing people left and right. So we worked on that comp plan for quite some time. We had some really good individuals work on that. We're not at the top of the pay scale when you compare us to other entities. We're somewhere in the middle. But we're right down toward the bottom. So what we see now is we don't retain everybody, obviously, but the retention is much better than it was. When you lose people like that, it costs money because you get all that training in them, and then you lose those people. And so I think particularly the sheriff's office would probably be the biggest benefactor. I'm doing quite well because one of the things we noticed, we're not losing, well, we were losing our best people because of better pay. So what I see is, and I won't today because I won't go into that much detail, but I have some people within my organization that we pay fairly well, but they pump out 2 to 3 times the amount of work that somebody, a newer hire would. Okay, that's a real benefit. The other thing we're seeing, this has been in place long enough that attrition is actually starting to work out. In other words, and I'll use the sheriff's office again, they have at least 2, if not 3, retirees that have already retired. They've got a couple coming up, I think. And when those are higher paid because they've been here for a long time. When those positions are replaced, they come in at a lower level of salary. So when I say attrition, that is starting to work out now to where it works to where you pay your good people and keep those good people. They retire, you replace them at a lower rate.
I think there's another thing I think we're all very, very sensitive to the economic conditions and the businesses that have been closed and those people and all of that stuff. And the federal government is just, you know, I'm very, very proud to be a United States citizen, the way that they haven't gotten it in a timely manner, a lot of people, but it's still there, it's there. But the county, we have statutorily required jobs, functions, services, however you want to say it. And it's mandated down to us, and we must provide them. So maybe we sheltered at home, but there's been a revolving, a working, everything has continued on the county level. Business has moved forward, and the people's business has been taken care of. And at the same time, amazingly, we have managed to keep relatively a healthy workforce. So I think it's commendable when you look around and you listen to the news, which I had to give that up, but those kinds of things, it's amazing that how Canyon County and even our communities, Caldwell and Nampa and the state of Idaho, you know, we have to have a balanced budget. You know, some people, other states would kill for that sort of a thing when they're looking at this time of year in their predicament. So I think that this is this year, I don't think anybody is really surprised that we're holding the line and we're doing it like this.
Hi, Chair.
Yes.
Zach, so I think the plan was implemented in 2016, is that right? For 5 years on that?
I believe it was 2016.
Okay, so this will be the 5th year.
I think it was implemented in March or April of 2016. So then fully implemented fiscal year 2017.
17, yeah.
And do you have a breakdown of how much has been dedicated from property taxes to fund that compensation plan since its inception?
No, I don't have that specific amount here with me today.
Okay, and you're able to get that out?
We can get the historical budget detailed information, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, I think you said it very well. That keeps the compensation program whole, keeps it moving forward, I think, in the fiscally responsible manner given the current economic climate and circumstances.
If I may just add very briefly, I am still, in fact, just recently, I'm losing court clerks to the private sector. My point would be, and it's because of pay. So I think again, when I say we're not the bottom, we're not the top, we're somewhere in the middle, I think we're probably about where we need to be.
You need to be closer to the top than the bottom. I'm sorry.
Page number 5 begins a more detailed look by office and department of the 2020 budget compared also to the 2021 suggested budgets. And on that first page, we identified the capital investments line. That's housed within the current expense fund. And in 2020, there was $4 million included there, the capital investments, and we're showing the $1 million included for fiscal year 2021. The building and grounds budget is a decrease of roughly $300,000. That's due to a reduction in capital projects. Also, the clerk of the court budget is decreased. Included in the 2020 budget for the clerk of the court was $150,000 for a remodel. That project has been completed. There's no need to allocate that budget going forward in 2021. The commissioner's budget, you'll notice the salaries and benefits line is decreased. That is because the commissioner did not fully utilize what was budgeted in 2020 for a compensation increase. So the amount included in 2021 is based on the current salaries. Page 6 continues with offices and departments. We have an increase in our consolidated elections budget. We have a presidential election in November of 2020. That will coincide with our fiscal year 2021, and we expect increased activity related to that.
Hunter?
Yes.
Does I have a question for you? Because included with the first election equipment was an annual renewal contract for $100,000. So it is about an increase of $180,000. Is that included in there? Is that what that's at?
Yes, that increase is included in there.
Thank you.
On the county fair, there's an increase in that budget of a little over $2.3 million. And that $2.3 million is for the site improvement project at the county fair that the county is moving forward with the assistance of Caldwell Urban Union. So that $2.3 million is not coming from county-specific property tax. That's a partnership with the Urban Renewal Caldwell.
Which I wanted to say, make sure I understand that correctly. So the county will incur the cost and will be reimbursed by the city of Caldwell.
It will be reimbursed by the Caldwell Urban Renewal Agency.
Okay, thank you.
And we've already begun that process. We've already expended some funds and we've submitted and received reimbursement. So that work is underway. The rest of the budgets there are fairly similar last year. The court facilities budget is increased $50,000. There's no property tax money in that fund. That is a specific fund restricted for investment in courtroom upgrades and courtroom remodels.
Jack, where's that money from?
That comes from, it's a part of a fine or a fee collected through the courts. On page 7, our emergency communications function includes $900,000 for an upgrade, a cell, and tower project. And emergency communications, there's no property tax money in that fund. That is all from E911 fees and other relevant fees. Our information technology budget is showing an increase from 2020 to 2021. Information technology team recently participated in an audit relating to software licensure, and we've got an increase of $158,000 in our service contract line item for fiscal year 2021. Our indigent medical care and assistance, the budget there is down roughly $900,000. That includes removal of 5 full-time positions and a significant decrease in our medical-related payments. A big question mark there in indigent medical is involuntary mental commitments. We're not seeing the decrease, the decline, the involuntary mental commitments. We're certainly keeping a close eye on that, as that fund has been in flux the past few years. But we've certainly seen an increase in the medical payouts, and that's resulted in a staff reduction and a budgetary reduction as well. Also, we've got a decrease in our juvenile detention budget. With the reduced numbers in juvenile detention center, that's led to a reduction of 6 full-time positions in that budget. On page 8, the county landfill has a budgetary increase, and that is largely associated with a compactor. $1 million for the purchase of a compactor. And again, there's no property tax monies that go to the landfill, and there is record activity happening at the landfill. The Parks, Cultural, and Natural Resources budget, it has an increase of around $300,000 total. That increase is for a RV project at Celebration Park that will be grant funded. Total project is around $475,000, and the county is contributing between $10,000 and $20,000 of that amount. So we're getting a significant return on our investment there for that Celebration Park RV project.
I'm sure, Zach, so there won't be any expense in the addition to the legal office for fiscal year 2021, is that correct?
That is correct, yes. On the bottom of page 8, provides detail regarding the security department. There was $210,000 budgeted in 2020 specific to the security departments. We're suggesting that that be removed fiscal year 2021. On page 9, for our sheriff's office, we have proposing 8 new positions for the sheriff's office, 2 at driver's license and 6 deputy sheriffs. Also included in the sheriff's budget is the lease payment for Pod 6, and that has decreased by roughly $700,000 from fiscal year 2020.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Back in 2018, we talked about this as a public budget hearing. So in 2018, the revenue and the expense for the lease payment on Pod 6 was in the current expense fund. And then it was moved to the justice fund. And so the difference then of $750,000 that exists between what the lease payment was initially and the $1.5 million there. And the revenue, why, can you explain why that's not listed on the current expense? Where there's a shared partnership with Justice Fund and the county commissioners to, one to provide the security and the other one to provide the building. So it would be easier, I think, to track that with the, when the lease payment goes down, and talk about that a little bit.
For the expenditures related to Pod 6, there were 2 initial upfront payments, if you will. Each initial payment was $2.2 million. The first payment came from current expense fund, and it came from fund balance that had accumulated and fund balance that was reserved for significant projects. We applied that fund balance from the current expense fund for the first lease payment. Because Pod 6 is assisting with sheriff's responsibility, and because when we receive revenue for housing prisoners in our facilities from the state or other entities, that revenue is deposited into the Justice Fund. I think it's appropriate to show that expense in the Justice Fund as well. And that also helps us to preserve and protect our fund balances in the current expense fund, fund balances that have the most available uses to us. By keeping that activity in the Justice Fund, we have revenue from housing prisoners, we have an expense related to the cost of housing those prisoners as well.
So, Vital Core and all of that, does that come out of Justice Fund?
Correct. That comes out of Justice Fund as well.
Okay. And let's see, is it Summit?
Food service?
Yeah.
Yes.
That comes out of Justice Fund as well.
Justice Fund as well.
Okay.
Not a lot of significant changes for the remaining entities there. The county also has oversight for 2 taxing districts that are separate from Canyon County. It's the Melba Gopher District. We're suggesting $12,000 once again. The Melba Gopher District and also the Pest Control District. We've got a decrease in the pest control budget. Those are separate taxing districts. Not every property taxpayer in the county pays to those taxing districts.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Can you back up on the current expense fund on revenue? You said that out-of-county revenue was deposited in the current expense fund. Is that what you said?
No, that's not what I said.
Okay, can you repeat that, please?
The out-of-county housing revenue is deposited into the Justice Fund.
Okay, and so where was the differential in the portion between the expense for project and the amount that was originally allocated? Because it was moved in 2018 as the amount of $0.2 million, whatever that amount was, over Justice Fund, and when that payment amount dropped in subsequent years, did we move the differential in revenue back to the current expense fund?
The payment hasn't dropped yet. Payment will drop in fiscal year 2021.
Okay, and so that drop in the amount of the expense for that, has it moved back to the current expense fund then?
The payments they've been made largely with fund balance up to this point. There's some offset to the cost of the lease through the increased revenues that come to the Justice Fund through out-of-county housing.
Okay.
Page 10 shows the suggested budget, the expenditures by function. With the largest share, 45% of our $102 million budget is for public safety activities. 32% of our budget is for general government services. And the next largest share is our health, welfare, and agency, which is 10% of our budget. Followed by public works, 7%, and culture and recreation, 6% budget.
How much did you see public safety once again?
45%. On page number 12,
There it is right there.
there's is a detail of where the money comes from to make this happen. And in fiscal year 2021, only 43% of the suggested budget is from current property tax. We've seen a significant increase in the intergovernmental portion of funding, and that comes largely from the CARES Act public safety monies. So intergovernmental funding sources will provide 29% of the funding for the suggested budget.
So because we're kind of matching, we're matching that CARES money up with a decrease somewhat. So it's not going to be an issue because we're not using it, or we might be using it for one-time. It's one-time money. Because I haven't heard anything about, you know, that Washington, D.C. is thinking so highly of that, they're going to keep giving us that. So it's one-time money, but because it's kind of matched up, you've washed it, so to speak, in the budget, so it's not going to, we're not going to find ourselves in hurting for certain, because we have that to, I think, actually, geez, if you think about it, Zach, we're using it exactly like it's intended to be used.
We're trying to help the citizens. That's ultimately who's going to benefit from that are the property taxpayers.
There, that's
potentially a 26% decrease in the county's budget.
Yeah, that is a heck of a statement. Okay.
Well, the last page, page number 13, provides detail for the county's budget by fund, and it does show a balanced budget. There's a line there for total county operating funds. In the total county budget, $102.7 million. Nearly $55 million revenue sources other than property tax, $44 million from property tax, and a use of fund balance to balance the budget of $3.5 million. That amount is actually substantially different than we've seen in prior years. In prior years, we've seen roughly $10 million of fund balance to balance the budget. I think because our revenues other than property tax are up, our grants, our awards, and because we have a budget that I think is very well put together, getting closer to actuals. We've unfunded 12 positions. I think the requests from offices and departments have been very reasonable. To only use $3.5 million of fund balance on a budgetary basis, that's territory we have not been in for a long time. That shows good use of revenues and good budgeting practices.
Madam Chair, you may recall in the last 2 years that I've been telling this board that this was coming, that we could see this coming. Where we were 10%, our budget was unfunded, we could see with various things that was going to change. And we've seen it in a big way this year. From, well, as Zach said, from 10 million to 3.5 million. So all in all, I think that's a very good thing.
And Madam Chair, we're not estimating $3.5 million of fund balance will be used. This is merely a budget exercise to balance the budget. We've seen historically departments and offices continue to come in under budget. Exercising frugality, identifying needs, and by them coming in under budget, we don't actually end up using fund balance. It's merely a budget tool to balance the budget. The cash is available there. We're hopeful. We're not going to actually use it.
Any questions?
I want to list it for just a minute. So, Zach, on information provided from the report, just going back over, I appreciate your patience on that, under capital investment, $9.2 million for vehicle machinery and equipment investment. You funded all the recommended $787,000 from the fleet department.
We got that in like 3 separate lines. $502,000 for police vehicles, $121,000 for general vehicles, and $146,000 for trucks and pickups. My Caldwell High School math comes up with $769,000 there.
Okay, so there was one vehicle that essentially you didn't fund. If he had submitted the fiscal year 2021 vehicle recommendation,
Could be one vehicle that wasn't funded there.
okay, and then in looking at the capital improvement project for some facilities, I know you indicate that's down, and then you take it on the mezzanine project at Celebration Park. There's no other. I don't have a total on this yet, but.
I didn't quite hear what you said, Commissioner Van Beek. What did you say about Celebration Park?
I think that we did not provide funding to finish the mezzanine at the Crossroads.
Okay, Crossroads.
So on the vehicles, I know we cut a pickup on it.
And
I
they,
think the request was for pickup of 1 ton.
6x6 or whatever.
I think we did not.
and I appreciate that. The request that he submitted, only 2 of those, the extended cab and the UTV were funded. So he didn't include that in the
About the coroner's office, there was talk about a vehicle, the coroner's office.
Yes, they had an Explorer.
That one, the coroner decided to not request that for 2021.
Okay, so. And there was a request for county classification. And the breakdown on that, I know the clerk's office had 4 positions to be classified, and those included in there. I don't have a breakdown on that.
Yes, those reclassification requests for the clerk, they were approved.
And there was also a request in the assessor's office at that time.
Yes, that was funded as well.
And have I missed someone?
There was a request from the Development Services Department.
so a total 9 total people, and then those 6 reclassified people.
Roughly, yes.
And can you talk, I know, Chris, that your challenge is real, but can you talk a little bit about the not taking the new construction? What, you know, what your thoughts were on that?
My thought on that is that there are two things that I try to do as the elected clerk and auditor. And number one, that's take care of the taxpayers, property taxpayers in Canyon County. Number two is take care of our employees, because I believe happy employees serve the public best. So the idea being is, when we took a look at this whole thing, with the cuts we made, CARES money, and the total package, that we could forego the new construction money. And I think that sends a powerful message. You know, we had the last legislative session, there was a lot of talk going on. Nothing happened. That's going to come up again. I want Canyon County to have a strong voice when it comes to property tax and how we handle things. And I think the state needs to step up and do some things. You know, as an example, the $3.66 million in indigent, $2.25 million of that is involuntary mental holds. Well, given Medicaid expansion and the waivers, I don't see that should be coming to us. In fact, I talked to Zach about, let's just push the issue here and take that $2.25 million out of the budget. Well, I think that'd be a big fight, and I don't know how it would turn out. When I looked at the fund balance at 35% or thereabouts, I thought, well, if we lose, and that's $2.25 million that we have to come up with out of fund balance, that's going to put me into some uncomfortable territory. So, but my point is, again, Canyon County is making an effort, a supreme effort in my mind, to send a message that yes, we are here for the taxpayers. We want to do something for the property taxpayers. I think it's out of hand. And I don't know, but I'm going to guess that there is not very many taxing entities between the counties and the cities that are going to forego new construction. You know, in the past, that's been an automatic. Everybody takes it. Well, we saw a way where we did not have to, and I think that's the proper thing to do.
Where is your comfort zone on the fund balance?
Quite some time ago, we bandied that around at length, and I do not want to drop below 30.
Okay. And that even is somewhat higher than some of the communities.
Pardon me?
That 33% is even higher than some of the municipalities. So,
Madam Chair.
yes.
Zach, can you provide a dollar amount for the total for the 12 full-time positions that were unfunded? What does that amount to?
That amount roughly $750,000.
Okay, and so the offset is the 575, 750. So next year we take the highest of 3 years, 454 million. We'll have to add roughly 600,000 back in for the increase in personnel that we're adding this year. And the new personnel will be classified. Is that right?
I would say not necessarily. I think there's a lot that can change between now and next year. I prefer to wait and see what happens. We're still trying to close out fiscal year 2020. Let's see what happens during fiscal year 2021. Prepare and plan for 2022. I can't say exactly right now how revenues are going to end.
Right. And
either this year, let alone 2021.
I'm saying if things remain constant, if we were just looking and all things remain constant, I know we have attrition, I know, but if these people are, so personnel budget, there's a net increase, of like 125,000. If we're leaving that, what we're doing that. But
Correct. And what we've seen are, the clerk referenced it earlier, we've seen employees retire, and then that position is filled then by somebody coming in at the starting wage. There's a difference there between a 25-year deputy retiring and a brand new deputy coming in. There's salary difference there.
And just for comparison's sake, when's the last time that there was any kind of analysis between, I know that Ada County is being more on the high end and maybe, I don't know who we're using on the low end, but do we run those numbers? I personally don't know how the compensation, I've had it explained to me, but is there an analysis that takes a look at that on a regular basis to ensure that we're not exceeding some of the numbers in Ada County or that we're staying where we're at? And is that information available?
Yes, we're constantly receiving information, feedback from other local governments, other entities regarding compensation, wages, and salary practices so that we can remain in the market, remain competitive.
And I know last year you were good enough to provide a document showing the increases, and some of it ranged from 0, and then there were reclassified positions, 36 or 32%. So do you have that information available again?
I do have that available again, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And Zach, this on page 2, the foregone of $5,988,720 includes the amount that we are going to forego this year of $1,644,629. Is that correct? No.
No, that's not correct.
Okay.
5.98 is the existing amount of foregone.
Okay.
And if we forego the 3%, and if we forego the new construction, the total increase to our foregone could be $3.7 million.
And to the 5.9.
Correct.
Okay. And then, do you have any thoughts on any kind of ongoing revenue sourcing for meeting the needs for public safety? So I know that we have a capital improvement fund that will have $1 million in it that from property tax and sales tax. And your mind, we talked a little bit about the budgeting on acquiring tax incentives or a portion of property tax perhaps that would be a regular part of feeding a capital improvement fund. Do you have any thoughts on what that looks like, or is that on your radar?
I think the most important thing right now is to leave the money in the people's pockets so they can spend it on their rent, their groceries, etc. We are allocating significant resources to public safety. Public safety is the biggest portion of our expenditure budget. And we're also finding a way to add $500,000 to that capital investment line. But whatever we can do to leave money in people's pockets so they can spend it as they see fit, as they see best, as meets their needs, I think that's the top priority right now.
And I appreciate that. I understand what you're saying. I'm just wondering, on that question that everybody gets asked, what are we going to do to meet the needs for long-term public safety?
Madam Chair, 100% of that $1 million is property tax. 100%. Because as I've stated here before, first in, first out is how we live here. In other words, any of the money, whether it be sales tax or grants or whatever, we spend that first. We spend property tax last. So anything that goes into that capital improvement line is strictly property tax dollars, period.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
None at this time.
I think this is a yippee-i-o-ki-yay, so
It is.
it is. I think it's, and I am extremely grateful to the other elected officials and to the department heads. Well done. Really, really, everybody realized this has been a tough year, and we're not through it yet, and everybody came in with their requests and their budgets knowing you know what? We're not done. We're not out of the woods yet on this. So thank you, all of you that are here. I just really, really appreciate it. And thank you, Zach and Chris. Thank you so much. I know it takes hours and hours and hours, and you're not even close to done. When do we have the public hearing? That's the end of August or something like that? The 27th, did you tell me, Monica? 26th of August. So.
Madam Chair, we are scheduled to meet a week from today.
Yes.
On August 3rd, we have 3 meetings scheduled that week. So we're hopeful to have a budget ready for publication by Friday that week of August 3rd.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So
That
now,
concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
you're very welcome. That would conclude this meeting. Thank you, Monica.